Okay. Sorry, I'm just experiencing more technical issues. Okay. Sorry, I'm just experiencing more technical issues. Okay, and we are live. I'm going to take that sound off so you don't hear my voice twice. Thank you so much for joining me again, guys. It's been one hell of a week. We are finally getting some good news on Cineworld stock. It's been a long time since we saw truly positive news articles, but yesterday was a big one. Landlords and creditors got together and actually agreed on something, and Cineworld got 1 point. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to go into my slides here. Also, this is episode 10. What a great way to start episode 10, but with this news. I'm going on holiday tomorrow for the weekend, so that is another reason that I wanted to do the live stream today. And we have this new Cineworld stock YouTube channel, which is another thing to celebrate that I did before this news came out. So this is all like clearly this is all a sign that it's all uphill from here on Cineworld stock. By the way, this channel is to discuss whether Cineworld is going to boom, go to the moon, or whether it's going to go bust. But I am obviously biased. I am a shareholder in Cineworld, and I'm a lover of cinema, and I'm a lover of Cineworld cinema. So I want it to do well. However, I do discuss the negatives in this channel, the risks, the potential that Cineworld shareholders will get nothing, and I will be discussing those risks that are still prevalent today. However, after the announcement yesterday, it seems ever more extremely unlikely that Cineworld shareholders will come out of this with nothing, and potentially what we've all been hoping for, that Cineworld shareholders will come out of this doing really well with potential. Like, looking at this today, again, I feel like I must be crazy here, but it seems like Cineworld shareholder, there could be no dilution, that the email that the letter to shareholders about their potential for significant dilution. I feel like there's potential that was just Cineworld. Like, they had to say that, like, there could be dilution. Like, if they didn't get enough money in time, if the Cineworld Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing proceedings didn't go to plan, if they didn't get money from Black Adam in time, if, you know, there's all these contingencies, and potentially the only way to get out of the Chapter 11 filing was significant dilution. But after what's happened today, unless I misunderstand things, it seems like that's extremely unlikely. Just not only because Cineworld got this financing, and we're going to go into the dip financing that Cineworld got access to today, but not only because of that, but the willingness of landlords and creditors to work with Cineworld in order to make sure that the business doesn't have to pay too much in interest. Like, the whole reason that they got this financing today was so that Cineworld didn't have to pay 100 million in interest payments. So creditors and landlords got together and agreed on a deal so that Cineworld could get access to new credit to pay off 1 billion in debt that was accruing today. So that is, again, I feel like there's so many signs here that creditors are not out to destroy Cineworld. Okay, and so what I want to talk about today is we often see share price 2p to 5p to 10p. At the end of yesterday, Cineworld's market cap, you could have bought the whole business for 20 million. Now you'd have to buy the whole business for 100 million. Now, I've talked about this before. That is not the cost of buying the whole business. Like, if you actually started to try and buy up the entirety of Cineworld, share prices would go up rapidly. So this is just the current price of the stock on the London Stock Exchange. If you were to times the price that the shares are being sold for there at the minute by the total number of shares, this is the number you'd get. But if you started actually purchasing those shares, you'd be quite quickly the share prices would be going up and up and up. So actually, let's go to the London Stock Exchange site and look at the number of short sellers on Cineworld. So Cineworld stock, London Stock Exchange, and what was short? I was looking today at share split. So this is the actual London Stock Exchange website. You've got all this information here. You can actually see. So if you go to the London Southeast site, but you can go see Cineworld stock short positions here as well. And this I find interesting. So Cineworld's short positions, friggin' adverts, were at the 15th of August, 14%. Then after the bankruptcy filings, loads of the shorters closed their positions. So I keep seeing short squeeze on Reddit, short squeeze on Reddit. There is no real short squeeze potential on Cineworld. It's only 2% of the stock is shorted. A year ago, you might have been able to do that. 10% of the stock was shorted during the pandemic. 2 years ago, I think the peak I saw was 14%. Yeah, so this was actually, 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, 14% of the stock was shorted. So this isn't a game situation. The shorts on the stock are 2%. I'm shocked that there are that many people shorting it right now. And I think the reason for this is that anyone that would sell you a short is going to be charging very high insurance on that short. So it's a bit like that scene in the Big Short, where they try and short the triple B shares or whatever in the triple B loans and the double B loans. And then they realize that they can short the A loans, the triple A loans, and basically they get really good price, really low insurance to short the triple A mortgage bonds. In this instance, because Cineworld are currently filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, it's really expensive to short them. And so that, combined with the fact that I think sentiment is that Cineworld might come out of Chapter 11 filing, there's very few people shorting Cineworld stock at the minute. So it's there isn't a short squeeze, but the fact that there's a very few shorts on here is a very good sign that Cineworld are on the right track to come out of Chapter 11 filing. And look at when these shorts ended. They're all like in the last week, it went down to 2%. Look at that drop off. So I do think that you can infer a little bit from this that the negative sentiment around Cineworld is on its way out. And so, yes, we've gone from 20 million to 100 million in one day. And I personally think that, so this will have come down a little bit today, which is to be expected. The news came out yesterday and there was this sort of rush into the market. There was probably a lot of day traders, but I don't like to speculate on how much of a stock is day traders because you can just go crazy doing all of that. The fact is the positive news took it from 2p and now it's at around 6p. So the funding was 1.94 billion. And to get more into the nitty-gritty on that, a bankruptcy court in Texas has given the movie theater giant Cineworld final approval for 1.94 billion in Chapter 11 financing. And this is according to the Hollywood Reporter. They reported on this, but there's also, this is from CoStar, which for some reason they're doing really good articles on Cineworld at the minute. They seem to be following this really well. So another thing that I read in the CoStar article that I thought was quite interesting, there's nothing for Cineplex for now. The bankruptcy filing has given Cineworld reprieve from paying a hefty $1 billion judgment in a Canadian court. So anyone that's interested in the Cineplex side of all of this, like what Cineplex going to get, they're not really being discussed in this at the minute. They're not really a main character. If Cineworld go bankrupt, Cineplex will get nothing. They are last in line. So Cineplex know this, and basically Cineplex are probably one of the main people rooting for Cineworld to get out of bankruptcy so that they can get their money. And Cineplex isn't going to affect whether or not we, as shareholders, retain equity. So the reprieve for Cineplex isn't going to affect us at all, from what I can tell. I also want to claim that, so I've got another channel that I talk about value investing, and that's going to be core value investing, and the Cineworld live stream is going to be here now. But what I'd like to say is I feel like I'm good. I've got an 8-year track record in recognizing value, recognizing free cash flow growth, but I want to make sure people are aware that I'm no expert on bankruptcy, and everything I know about bankruptcy and Chapter 11 filings in America has come so far from doing all this research on Cineworld. So, like, just that's my whole credentials. I've been on eToro for 8 years. You can go see my stats. I've done pretty well. But in terms of bankruptcy, I've got no legal degree. I'm not a journalist. I'm just a trader that learned online and is daily following Cineworld and reading a lot about it. But yeah, guys, I'm incredibly happy about this news. And it looks like you guys are on Reddit as well. I bought more shares this week, the morning of the announcement. So it's nice that some of my positions on Cineworld are up today. And I just wanted to, I think that's all I wanted to talk about today is one of the things I want to talk about actually is this 1.94 billion is going to come with strings, and there's going to be debt to pay on that as well. And that's something that I haven't gone into yet. So I haven't really been able to get into the nitty gritty of what it will mean when it comes to paying the 1.94 billion off. So that, and from what I can tell, the articles haven't talked much about it. I think they will have to make payments on that 1.94 billion as soon as 6 weeks' time. But I don't really understand the wording. So they talk about marketing off the debt in 6 weeks. You can read this CoStar article. I'll put a link to it in the description. But yeah, if anyone else has more insight as to how Cineworld will have to pay off this new debt that pays off the old debt, that'd be really helpful. Another great bit of news that has come out this week is the fact that Cineworld have agreed, or the bankruptcy has granted Cineworld the ability to not pay some of their leases. So around, I think it's 17 leases that Cineworld have been allowed to not pay anymore. I can get the article up. But this will mean that they have much lower capital lease debt. So in 1 week, we've got interest that was occurring in literally this week. That was about 100 million. That's been wiped off the balance sheet. And then we've also got loads of capital lease debt that has now been wiped off the balance sheet. And as I've talked about before, capital lease debt is the rent that's going to be paid indefinitely. So it's a big number on the balance sheet. And right now, it looks like it's being reduced a lot. So we got capital lease debt down. We've got some interest that's occurring recently. So short-term debt is down. All of this before 3 enormous films, but not just 3 enormous films. We've got smaller films. We've got the fact that Netflix are now going to be releasing films in the cinema, and that's what my video that I've been working on today. I was working on that for 8 hours. I'm really excited to release that on this channel. It'll be the first sort of edited video for this channel, not just a live stream, and it's going to be Netflix versus Cineworld, the free cash flow analysis of the two businesses, and also how I think that by this time next year, Cineworld could be the world's largest cinema in terms of market capitalization, and how Netflix might actually be filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. That's going to be sort of the conclusion of the video, potentially. And I'm not joking when I say this, that I actually think that Cineworld are in a better position financially than Netflix right now, or at least the story of Cineworld to me looks better than Netflix, because Cineworld, yes, they have a large amount of debt, but they have a very clear route out of it with all the revenue that's about to come into them. The fact is that if we look at how Cineworld have paid off their debt in the past and their short-term debt relative to their earnings, Cineworld annually have enough to pay off their debt all the time. The fact is that debt payments are regular. They're spread across the whole year. That number you see, the amount of short-term debt and long-term debt, that's spread across the whole year or spread across many years. But their revenue goes up and down throughout the year. And so their cash supply and their cash flow is really high potentially at the end of the year and the beginning of the year, but it dips in the middle of the year. It dips around July and August, beginning of August each year. And so the fact is that just because they have a temporary period which they find it hard to pay debt because they didn't have an enormous cash supply that they normally do, doesn't mean that across the entirety of the year they can't make their interest payments. And no year is that more true than this one, I believe, with Avatar 2 on the horizon and Black Panther 2 and Glass Onion 2. So yeah, safe to say I'm really excited about what's going to happen to Cineworld this week. I think that is going to be all from me in the live stream today. Unless you got any questions, I'm going to give you guys a minute to ask questions in the question section. If you don't have any questions, that'll be all from me today. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for subscribing to the new channel. There'll be more videos on the way here, and there'll be another live stream next week at Thursday at around 6 or 7 p.m. So like and subscribe to be notified when that video goes up. All right, thank you very much, guys. Another brilliant week. Let's see if we can get this stock to the moon. Come on, guys. I really think we can do this. Right. Okay, that's enough from me. I'm going to have my whiskey and enjoy my evening. All right, love you guys lots. Goodbye.